All right, let's take a journey to two places on Earth that just couldn't be more different. Picture this. One place is bursting with life, dripping wet all the time. The other? It's all about scorching heat and incredible stories of survival. Today, we're diving into a tale of two climates, the rainforest and the desert.
So you gotta wonder, what could the wettest place on Earth and the driest place on Earth possibly have in common? Well, the answer is kind of a twist. It's not really what they share, but their extreme differences that connect them. These conditions have pushed life to come up with some of the most amazing survival tricks on the planet. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's just look at the stats here, because they're pretty wild. In the rainforest, you're talking over 2,000 millimeters of rain a year. And the temperature? It's always a warm, sticky 26 degrees Celsius or more. Now, let's flip over to the desert. You're lucky to get less than 250 millimeters of rain. And the temperature? Oh man, it swings from crazy hot to freezing cold. They're just complete opposites.
All right, first stop on our trip, the Equatorial rainforest. I want you to imagine a place where it's basically summer 365 days a year. And the weather forecast? Yeah, that's easy. It's pretty much always thunderstorms. This whole daily downpour thing is like clockwork. It's the engine that runs the rainforest, and it's called convectional rainfall. So here's how it works. Every morning, that strong equatorial sun just bakes the ground. All that heat makes the moist air shoot upwards, kind of like steam from a kettle. As it gets higher, it cools down and forms these enormous towering clouds. And then, by the afternoon, bam! You get a massive thunderstorm every single day.
So with all that heat and rain, plants grow like crazy. But there's a big problem: sunlight. Everyone's fighting for it. This constant battle for light has created this amazing layered structure in the forest. You've got 4 floors, basically. The emergent layer way up top, then the main canopy, the shady understory, and way down at the bottom, the super dark forest floor.
Let's talk about the canopy for a second. The best way to picture it is like a gigantic, living green roof that stretches over the whole forest. And I mean thick. It's so dense it blocks out something like 90% of the sunlight. That's why it's so dark down below. This canopy layer, though, this is where all the action is. It's just buzzing with life. Monkeys, birds, insects, you name it.
But wait a minute. How do these huge, towering trees not just fall over? You'd be surprised to learn the soil in the rainforest is actually super thin and not very strong. So how do they do it? Well, nature's got a brilliant solution: buttress roots. These things are incredible. They grow out from the base of the tree above the ground like giant fins, creating this super stable tripod that holds the whole thing up.
And the smart designs don't stop there. Check these out. You've got lianas. These are basically woody vines that are expert climbers. They use the big tree trunks as their personal ladders to race up to the sunlight in the canopy. And then look at this leaf. See that pointy end? That's a drip tip. It works like a little gutter, channeling all that heavy rain right off the leaf so it doesn't get waterlogged or moldy. So clever.
Okay, buckle up, because we are about to make a huge jump across the globe. We're leaving all that green and all that rain behind. Our next stop is the hot desert, and it is truly a land of extremes.
So, in the desert, you almost never see a cloud in the sky. And without any clouds to act as a sunshade, the daytime heat is just relentless.
We're talking temperatures that can soar past 50 degrees Celsius. That's over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It's literally fry an egg on the sand hot.
But then the sun sets and everything changes, dramatically. Remember how there were no clouds? Well, that means there's nothing to hold in the heat. So all that warmth from the day just escapes straight into space. The temperature absolutely crashes, often right down to freezing, around 0 degrees Celsius. Think about that. You go from scorching to shivering in just a matter of hours.
This huge swing in temperature from day to night actually has a scientific name. It's called the diurnal range. And the reason it's so massive in the desert is really simple when you think about it. There's no cloud blanket. At night, there's nothing to tuck the warm air in, so all that heat just radiates right out into the clear night sky.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth does anything live here? Well, it all comes down to some seriously clever survival tricks. You've got plants like cacti, which are succulents. They basically hoard water in their thick, waxy stems so it doesn't evaporate. Other plants send these super long roots deep underground, searching for water. And the animals? Most of them just sleep through the heat. They're nocturnal, hiding out in cool burrows all day, and only coming out at night when it's cooler.
Okay, so we've seen the what, but what about the why? Why are these places so different? To understand that, we need to zoom out and look at the big picture.
the global climate drivers that create these two opposite worlds.
And believe it or not, it really all boils down to air pressure. Around the equator, where it's super hot, all that warm, moist air is constantly rising. This creates what's called a low-pressure zone, which means, you guessed it, clouds and tons of rain. But what goes up must come down, right? So that same air, which is now cool and totally dry, eventually sinks back to Earth over other regions. This sinking air creates a high-pressure zone, and that basically acts like a force field against clouds. No clouds, no rain. And that's how you get a desert.
But there's a problem. These ancient, incredible ecosystems are now facing a huge modern threat, one that's messing with the entire planet's climate. And that's us, specifically the impact of deforestation.
So why are we clearing these forests? Well, there's a whole list of reasons. There's commercial logging, chopping down valuable trees for things like furniture. Then there's massive clearing for agriculture. Think giant palm oil plantations. Huge areas are also turned into grazing land for cattle. And on top of that, you've got mining for things like gold and iron, and even just building new roads can open up a remote forest to all of this.
But why is this such a big deal? Why should we care about losing these trees? Because, simply put, they're the lungs of our planet. They're what we call carbon sinks. They literally breathe in the carbon dioxide that's heating up our atmosphere, and what do they breathe out? The oxygen that we all need to live.
And when we lose these carbon sinks, it sets off this terrible domino effect. Deforestation is right at the heart of the problem. It ramps up global warming because all that CO2 has nowhere to go but into the atmosphere. It causes a massive loss of biodiversity as countless animals and plants lose their homes. And it's a tragedy for the local and indigenous people whose entire way of life depends on these forests.
And that really brings us to our final and most important question. We can already see the first few dominoes tipping over. A hotter planet, species disappearing forever, people losing their homes. So, as these vital rainforests keep getting smaller, we have to ask ourselves, what are the next dominoes to fall? Because whatever the answer is, it's going to affect every single one of us.